Hey guys and girls, this is Alish from gainmedialab.com. Welcome to my exciting world of live audio mixing. In this episode, I talk about the things that I have learned during the Live Sound Summit 2020. But before we get into that, make sure that you subscribe to this channel so you don't miss out on any of the goodness that gets thrown at you about live sound and everything surrounding it every Monday. So, with all that said and done, let's start the show. Live Sound Summit 2020, the biggest online community event that was on last week, was a major success. It was a 5-day blast, bringing people together, talking about live sound from all aspects, from system engineering, mixing, community, networking, everything that had to deal with live sound. It was all there. All of the presenters brought their A game. There wasn't a bad presentation during those 5 days. And I got to hang out with people in the community. I got to talk to a lot of the cool names that shape the industry as we know it. And I wanted to share a few tidbits of information that sort of stuck around in my head and resonated with me. First of all, I want to talk about the community. And I think this is one of the biggest advantages of such events. You get to hang out with, let's say, 160, 180 people from all around the world who are deeply concerned with live audio, who might be people that you will get to work with someday or have already worked with. It's a great opportunity to network. And as Omar Cologne, one of the presenters during Live Sound Summit, said, the opposite of networking is not working. So getting together, exchanging thoughts and ideas, also just like hanging out in the chat box and figuring out if there's pieces of gear that people use or, software that they use and exchanging your information with them. It's just a blast. And I'm pretty sure that there have been a couple of friendships that have been created during that Live Sound Summit that will last for a lifetime. I had a blast meeting everybody in the community, spending time with them, sharing my screen time with their questions. And it's a great way to actually have access to the people that you might not have the ability to talk with. Like, when am I going to have the chance to talk with like Dave Ratton, Robert Scovill, and Pooch, and Bob McCarthy, like the gods on the Olympus of what we call the live audio world, right? So Live Sound Summit is just that. It gives you the opportunity to come face to face, to exchange opinions, questions, and just really to, see them for what they are. These people are really cool. And that's what the Sound Summit sort of felt like for the entire 5 days. It was a combination of bringing cool people together. And if you haven't had that experience during the couple of, last weeks or months with everything that's been going on in the world, it sort of felt like a safe haven, not only to me, but to a lot of people that expressed the same attitude in the chat box or in the questionnaires. It was just a feel-good moment for all of us. And we got to learn something from it. And here are the things that I have learned. Number one, Dave Rat is a freaking poet. Like, who knew? We think about Dave Rat as this cool guy doing lots of like sub combinations and teaching us about audio during his awesome YouTube videos. But his keynote during the first day, he just like opened it with, I have some notes that I want to talk to you about, and then went on into this inspirational address that was calm yet hopeful. It was clear and concise. It sort of summed up everything that we've been feeling for a while and gave us purpose. Dave, I thank you immensely for that. It was exactly what we needed, and what a way to start off a Live Sound Summit. It sort of set the tone for every presenter that followed. It just gave us a sense of community, companionship, and compassion that was so sorely needed during the, final days and final weeks, if you want to. And thank you for that. After that keynote, Dave dove right into the questions, and we talked about the technical aspects of, putting subs together and how to deal with digital and analog and everything that needs to be considered for live sound from his perspective. It was a great Q&A session, But it was a cool, inspirational moment combined with technical ability. I guess that's what our job is like, combining art together with the technical aspect of it. And Dave sort of brought it home, and it was an amazing thing to watch. Dave, man, you really are freaking awesome. Thanks for that. The second presentation that really, really inspired me and was sort of an aha moment for myself was the talk given by Loreen Bohannon. Loreen is a monitor engineer for Lizzo and Michael Bolton. She's been doing system tech thing and front of house and tour management, everything basically connected with live audio. But during her presentation, she touched upon her research on how men and women hear sound differently, how they perceive it differently, and how that, in fact, should affect the way we do live sound for them, especially if you're a monitoring engineer who is mixing their IEMs, how you should approach those mixes differently. Now, I won't really go into details because I'm sure that, Nathan will be providing some sort of a possibility for you to actually go and watch the replays of Live Sound Summit, but it was definitely worth the watch and something that stuck with me and resonated with me for the rest of the Live Sound Summit. The third thing that really sort of stuck in my head was Pooch's presentation, where he sort of combined not only his mixing techniques and approaches, but also talked about his entire work process on how he does all these events. And the thing that really stuck with me was his meticulous documentation of everything that he does. He was a guide in his file process and his file management process. And let me tell you, those big shows that Pooch does really need to have a lot of documentation. And it was great to see it all laid out for us, just to figure out how we can approach our own events. It doesn't matter how large an event is. It doesn't matter the scale. It just matters that the approach is there and that you have sort of a system behind everything. And it was great to hear Pooch talking about everything else. Plus, his audio presentation was on spot, and it was an eye-opening session for a lot of us. Now, talking about Pooch, the next presenter that sort of stuck in my head was, of course, Robert Scovill, one of the great mixers out there. He's also a great audio educator, and he blew our minds with his presentation on how to have digital mixers behave more like analog mixers in terms of the time domain. Now, he's been presenting that information during the lab sessions, which I encourage you to find on YouTube. In fact, I'll post the links below this video. But it was just an amazing presentation. In 2 hours, he was able to not only provide concepts, but provide audio presentation and provide a workflow presentation that allowed us to see how he approaches this problem of the time domain in the digital consoles. And I have to tell you, the audio examples in the end blew everybody's mind. One of the people in the chat said, he ruined audio for me. I have to rethink everything I know about audio, and that's exactly what I've been feeling. It's just that big of a difference. So, Robert, thank you for that. Thank you for sharing your knowledge and for inspiring us to do better work. Every time I hear Robert speak, I have to go back and revisit my work. And I think this is something that good educators do. And there's been a lot of that during the Live Sound Summit, and I have heard people talk about, okay, now I have to go back and rethink my approach and my session and all of that. So Live Sound Summit, it was just a culmination of great presenters, great educators, and it, I think, shifted the way we perceive our own work immensely, and hopefully, we are all better for that. The last thing I want to touch upon is something that I found prevailing throughout the entire Live Sound Summit, and I thought Nathan did a great job inviting a lot of female presenters, but it was brought home by the presentation by Susan Williams, who was talking about the 5%, and the 5% is the number of women in the live sound industry. It's lower than the number of women in construction or the number of truck drivers that are female, and it was something that really resonated a lot with a lot of the attendees of Live Sound Summit. And we had a full-on discussion on how this is a huge problem and how this can be dealt with. And being a part of Live Sound Summit for the 3rd year now, I'm so grateful for Nathan to invite more female presenters. And I was so happy to see more female attendees at this particular event, because it truly gave us a unique perspective and allowed us to share and be exposed to the maybe a problematical issue that we don't really think about as males in the industry, but should definitely take under consideration. So that was something that really touched me on a deep personal level, and I'm thankful for all of the presenters and everybody in the community who shared their stories with everybody at Live Sound Summit. It just made us all better and richer, and hopefully we can tackle this and bring these numbers up quite quickly and quite substantially. At the end, I just wanted to thank Nathan Lively from Sound Design Live for putting us together in this virtual room, for bringing everybody together, for contacting all of the presenters, taking care of everything, just being such a nice guy, and providing a great atmosphere for everybody involved. Hopefully this is an event that can only grow through the years, become bigger, better, and I sincerely hope to be there for the next Live Sound Summit in 2021. Hopefully I will be in the position to either work on it, but if I'm not, then that's fine. I will surely be there as an attendee, because I truly believe that these types of events bring the community together, give you a greater chance of success, not only because of the technical side of things, but just because you are reminded you are a part of a community that really cares about what they do and how they do it. And it's an inspirational moment that, we all need from time to time, but especially during these hard times. It was great to be reminded of that. Okay, that was it for this episode. Let me know if you attended Live Sound Summit in the comments below and what you thought about it. Let me know if there was another aha moment that you wanted to share with the rest of the community. While you're doing that, like, share, subscribe. Make sure that you visit gainmedialab.com for more audio deliciousness. And until next time, take care. Bye.